got to be detailed, precise, and informed.
That's DPI.
Welcome back, everybody, to That's DPI. I'm Zach, and that is Tyler over there. And we are in everyone's favorite season of the offseason. It is draft month. The draft is actually less than a month away, right? The 23rd of April is the start of the NFL draft in Pittsburgh, correct, this year? And so we have a ton of great content lined up for you. We will be covering yours, yes, yours, viewer, favorite team, because we will be covering every team in the NFL. All 32 will get coverage from us. So we'll have 4 draft episodes, just like we did last year, covering 8 teams apiece, finishing off with the most spectacular live event that you've ever seen. So make sure that you subscribe down below so you don't miss it. Tyler, what event am I talking about?
We are going to do a That's DPI Live, a full first round mock draft the night before the draft. That's something we did last year. We had such a good time, and we did pretty well on it. I think we got the first 10 picks right and like 11 and like 12 out of the first 13. So we're super excited for that. It's going to be a conclusion to all of our month-long draft coverage. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, turn on notifications so you do not miss your favorite team and their draft coverage.
Right, and more details about the timing of that stream will come out as we get closer, but mark your calendars for April 22nd, the Wednesday before the draft. We will get live Lions and Chiefs 7-round mock drafts, some funky mock drafts. If some viewers make some suggestions, maybe we'll do those mock drafts. So tons of draft coverage on the pipeline. But starting today, we will be doing the AFC West and the NFC East. A lot of top 10 picks we wanted to cover today, but we will be starting with Tyler's team, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I would be remiss if I did not pass it to my co-host to allow him to discuss who the Kansas City Chiefs are taking at pick 9.
I love covering and researching this because there's a lot of discord out there. Originally, the Chiefs were mocked to go get Jeremiah Love after they signed the Super Bowl MVP at running back. That discord has understandably stopped. So now there are 2 guys that a lot of researchers are looking at. So the Chiefs have the 9th overall pick, but they also have the 29th pick, and that's important. For number 9, a lot of analysts are looking at Caleb Downs, a safety out of Ohio State. There is another mock draft. There's a couple other mock drafts that mention Francis Malinois, an offensive tackle out of Miami. And I think this at pick 9 comes down to who's available. If Caleb Downs is available, the safety out of Ohio State, that's who they're going to pick. Period. If he is off the board, which some mocks do say he will be off the board before pick 9, then we're looking at possibly offensive tackle Maui
Noah.
Maui. I apologize. It's our first team out of 32, so there's going to be some mix up. But if the Chiefs don't want to make Roger Goodell say that name, Avion Terrell, a cornerback out of Clemson. This is pretty much going to be the replacement for Caleb Downs. If Caleb Downs is not there, you can expect possibly Avion Terrell. And if neither are there, then they might go with that offensive tackle out of Miami. I do apologize. One mistake that I also have already made. It's 1 out of 32. Avion Terrell is mocked to be picked 29 if we don't take Caleb Downs. So if we take Caleb Downs at 9, then we're looking at maybe an edge or a tackle at 29. If we don't get Downs at 9, then we're looking at a corner at 29.
Did you copy my notes verbatim? Verbatim, I say, I think it's the absolute perfect spot for Ohio State safety Caleb Downs since the Chiefs lost Brian Cook and Downs is a top 3 talent. However, there are a few nightmare scenarios where Downs is selected, so they could go with Miami tackle Francis Malinois. And then at pick 29, I also mock them Avion Terrell to round out the cornerback room. There is one player that I have in my notes that you did not mention, and I'm going to get your opinions on this because you called the Chiefs' 2nd-round pick last year being Omar Norman-Lott more than anybody. Like, you absolutely nailed that. You did mention that he would be going in the first round. They managed to nab him in the second, but it still doesn't matter. You matched him as a scheme fit to Spags' defense. And so I want to get your opinions on wide receiver Denzel Boston. Any thoughts on the Chiefs going playmaker, but Boston being a larger playmaking wide receiver, something they had in Hopkins for their Super Bowl run, but lost and don't really possess on the roster right now?
Boston is not someone that I've seen a lot in my research at all. I think he could possibly be in my research for the Chiefs.
This would be 29, by the way. There's no way that Boston goes top 10.
Correct. Yes. I don't see him going to the Chiefs because at offense, tackle's the weakest link. Andy Reid just for some reason doesn't trust Jalen Moore, despite Jawan Taylor being just awful in penalties last year, and now we've lost that guy. Josh Simmons has been inconsistent with some family issues plus some injuries, if I'm not mistaken. So if we're going to go offense in the first round, we have to go offensive tackle. And if we do offensive tackle on one pick, then we have to address defense at the other, because the Chiefs' defense is struggling. That was their weak spot last year, and we lost the safety and the top two corners. So they have to address defense. That has to be the priority in this draft. But if they do address offense in the first round, it's got to be tackle.
I think that's interesting. And the reason why I had Boston here is only because I think in a situation where they go Downs or Maui Noah, the cornerback class is really deep. Like, even going to the third and fourth round, you can get guys like Ephesians Prysock or some other corners that I think are really talented. And when you look at corners that are good in the NFL, there are some that were taken really early on, and there's a lot of them that were taken later on in the draft. Like, you can get great talent and value late in the draft at corner. You can't really at wide receiver, tackle, edge. Those are positions that you kind of have to draft highly if you want good talent. So with the Chiefs having a whole wide receiver, I think they maybe could go Denzel Boston or someone similar.
The last thing I'll say kind of about the Chiefs, because we do have a lot of teams to cover, is after 29, the Chiefs are back on the board 10 pick. My math's probably bad, but about 10 picks later, at the 9th pick up. Yeah, it's my math's definitely bad there. But the 9th pick of the second round, that might be a good landing spot for Boston. That's typically where the Chiefs draft their wide receivers. Rashee Rice and Sky Moore, two very different players, were both second-round picks by the Chiefs. That's probably where I would lean more of Boston going anyway, is an early second-round pick.
Okay.
And with the desperation that the Chiefs have at secondary, they need a first-round talent corner, not just any corner.
But you do admit that sometimes the Chiefs have found value in later corners like Noel Williams, and Jalen Watson was not that high of a selection. So there is precedent to say, hey, maybe the Chiefs could be looking to find a starting level player at the cornerback position later on in the draft. Jalen Watson was a 7th round pick. I don't think the Chiefs are going to wait that long with their desperation, like you said, but it's not out of the question for Veach and Spags to be like, okay, we can fill the corner with kind of a later round pick. We don't need to prioritize that talent when there's guys like Maui Noah, Downs, Boston, and maybe an edge rusher like Gabe Jacas or Zion Young from Missouri available in that first and second round pool.
Yeah. I do want to talk about Denver next, the team that doesn't have a first-round draft pick. Their first draft pick this year is at the end of the second round, the 30th pick of the second round, nonetheless, at pick 62. Could they trade up? I mean, the reason they don't have a pick is because they traded for Jalen Waddle. So is there a possibility of them going back into the first round? What do you think Denver's going to do this year?
Yeah, obviously Denver filled one of their bigger holes at wide receiver by trading their first round pick away for Jalen Waddle, which we discussed last episode, right? I think the Broncos would be wise to select a tight end or a running back in the second round, potentially someone like Max Clare out of Ohio State. He's a great receiving threat and kind of he's a capable blocker, but he looks more like an Evan Ingram tight end, which is who the current tight end of Denver is, but Evan Ingram is 33 and with 1 year remaining on the deal. So you could make that move. Also, running back could be an issue considering they just lost. There's a little bit of cloudiness in that backfield. Right now, I think the starter is I can't remember his name right now, but I know there's like, oh man, I'm struggling. Do you happen to remember? RJ Harvey is their current starter slated for this season. So someone like Jadarian Price out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love's teammate, could get a lot of looks from Denver in the spot. I've seen many mocks doing Claire or Price at that spot, but they also have a hole at linebacker since they lost Drake Greenlaw. So someone like Josiah Trotter in the second round. But those are just some names to keep an eye on if you're a Denver fan. We don't want you to feel left out. We were so fortunate at that DPI to have every single team select in the first round last year, something that only happens once every 5 to 6 years.
We've got a couple teams that pick multiple times, and that's why not every team selecting. The Chiefs have multiple picks through a trade with the Rams. Broncos don't have any. The Chargers have one single draft pick. At pick 22.
Same spot they were last year.
It is, isn't it? What do you think the LA Chargers are going to do? I emphasize LA because I notoriously call them San Diego.
Yeah, so LA they have a lot of needs, right? They have big needs in a fair amount of spots. But I think everyone would agree that a playoff team last year in LA, their biggest issue was offensive line. They could not protect Justin Herbert, whether that was due to injuries on their two tackles they're supposed to get back, or the catastrophic failure that was the Mekhi Becton experiment at guard. Mekhi Becton, no longer a Charger, and he played like crap when he was one. So he's gone, and good riddance as far as Chargers fans are concerned. I think his PFF grade was in the 50s in the latter half of the season for them. So I think that the Chargers have a no-brainer plug-and-play offensive guard to compete with Trevor Penning in Vega Ione. I think that he's been mocked to them a lot. He's the best interior offensive lineman in the draft. No-brainer. Protect Herbert. And if they don't go guard, I like Toledo safety. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, who had a wonderful combine, kind of reminds me of a Nick Eamon-Worry of the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, you can get away from taking a talented safety in the first and second rounds. And I think a versatile piece like that could really help the Chargers.
Guard is definitely the weakest link on offense. However, a lot of the mock drafts that I looked at have them looking at defense. Some defensive names that popped up on various mock drafts is also safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, but there's also interior defensive lineman Caden McDonald and linebacker Malachi Lawrence. So if they want to go defense at 22, I really think it comes down to best player available for a best defensive player available. There was a guard mentioned. NFL.com reports, or mocks, not reports, but they mock Chase Bisontis, a guard out of Texas A&M. So that's who I'm thinking could be number 22, the 22nd pick, the number 22 pick if they go guard. But I think it's going to be one of those two guys for guard or best defensive player available for the Chargers.
Yeah, I definitely think that those are their two biggest needs, is just like getting bodies on defense and interior offensive line. I think the reason why Chargers fans could be leaning safety is because their two starters last season were 34-year-old Tony Jefferson and Elijah Molden, who graded as the 78th out of 91 free safeties per Pro Football Focus. So you can look to them replacing not just one of those guys, but maybe both of those guys in the draft, starting with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren in the first round. But moving on to our final team in the AFC West, and this one is fairly straightforward, right? Very similar to Cam Ward last year. Last year, we made rookie predictions for Cam Ward's, and we actually never gone over those, so we may have to do that at a later date, see if we were right or wrong. But Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders is fairly automatic, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Now, to maybe be a devil's advocate, here are some other possible options. Yes, they could go for Fernando Mendoza. Other options that the Raiders could do is the Heisman Trophy winner from this past year. They could pick the national champion quarterback will be available, and then the popular quarterback out of Indiana is also available. So those are all potential options. And of course, I'm joking because all of those are Fernando Mendoza. They will not be drafting anybody except for that player.
I picked up on that embarrassingly late because I was like, who did win the Heisman? I thought it was Fernando Mendoza. Idiot. Good one, Tyler.
Is there any possibility of them trading number one? Fernando Mendoza will go number one. Is there any possibility of them trading that pick?
No, because it's not a situation in which I think that this team can afford to do something like that, right? Their GM is on the hot seat. I don't think they parted ways with Spytek quite yet. And they are one of, if not the most QB needy team in football. They just tried to bridge quarterback in Geno Smith. Clearly didn't work. So I think it's time to start over with a new head coach and a new quarterback. They're doing it, Tyler. They're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. So this is a great time to select Fernando Mendoza. I think it's a dang layup too, because my pro comp to Fernando Mendoza is a former number 1 overall pick out of California named Jared Goff. And it's not just because I'm a Lions fan that I'm saying that. Fernando Mendoza fits the prototypical pocket passer archetype. He's tall, he's got good but not great arm strength, and he's very accurate and super headsy. Fernando Mendoza won the national championship and went undefeated with Indiana, largely because he's a really, really good pro-style quarterback, and he's very accurate. It's not that he's like this Jaden Daniels type guy where he can run all over the field. He profiles more to a guy like Jared Goff. So I'm curious what you think on that pro comparison.
All of the adjectives and descriptions as to why you think Jared Goff, I agree with. The only thing I would change is the name. The name that I was thinking perhaps is Drake May. For the exact same reasons. He's not a guy, even though despite Mendoza's highlight of scoring a rushing touchdown in the national championship, Mendoza's not a mobile quarterback. He's not a guy that's going to go scratch. He's not the next Cam Newton.
Right. He had 400 career rushing yards at Indiana. It's not his game.
Yeah, it's not. And it's not really May's game either. May's a game manager. He's a pocket passer. He fits the Patriots quarterback mold extremely well. And as long as you don't turn the ball over, Drake May did super well. And that's how I see Fernando Mendoza as well, is more of that Drake May comparison. But I don't dislike the Jared Goff comparison either.
So I think Drake May's a little more mobile than you're giving him credit for. He had a nearly 698, so 700 yards rushing. And then he had 500 yards rushing, both of those higher than Fernando Mendoza's career in college. And those are back-to-back seasons for Drake May. So I think that Drake May profiles a little bit more to a Josh Allen style guy, more of a gunslinger with good mobility, rather than Fernando Mendoza, who in his career has less rushing yards than both of Drake May's starting seasons for the Tar Heels, right? Meanwhile, when you watch Jared Goff's college highlights, he had a lot of that rollout mobility, a lot of that rushing talent. But Fernando Mendoza admittedly is a little bit more athletic. So perhaps he's somewhere in between. But I think Drake May is a little more mobile than you're giving him credit for.
And maybe he is. I was not on the Drake May hype train really up until the MVP voting at the end of the season. So admittedly, I'm not as knowledgeable on Drake May's rushing ability. But if he does end up as either of those two quarterbacks, then that is a very successful draft pick for the Las Vegas. I keep saying Oakland, that I had to actually think about where they're actually located. The Vegas Raiders would be a very good draft pick for picking Fernando Mendoza if he does end up as either Jared Goff or Drake May.
Yeah, he would be a top 3 quarterback in that team's history, right? Especially in recent history.